Hello, True Health Seekers, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Now, I want to let you know that I'm about to end the contest, the Learn True Health contest, so please go to learntruehealth.com/contest. It'll take you less than 10 minutes. I'm going to send you something really awesome for doing it, and what is the biggest motivation is that you're going to be helping to boost the podcast so that more people can discover us and we can help more people. So if any of my episodes have made a positive impact in your life, let's reach more people who are looking for that positive impact as well. And so by you going to learntruehealth.com/contest, you're also going to help more and more people gain the health that they're looking for. Thank you so much for being a listener and enjoy the show. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 101. I am really excited for today's guest. Dr. Jack Wolfson helps people to recover their cardiovascular system and get a healthy heart and a healthy life. And he has an amazing book. He has an amazing movie. He has a wonderful website. He's got a lot of great information to share today. Today's going to be about having a healthy heart. My father died of heart disease. So this is a topic really close to my heart. And I know that it is now one of the number one killers is cardiovascular disease. So we have to do something about this. And this whole low fat, statin drugs, all the stuff that they've been doing for 30 years is not working. So I'm really excited for Dr. Jack Wolfson to be on the show today and teach us what we can do to live a long and healthy life with a healthy heart. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And you're right. Everything that you said. I mean, heart disease is still the number one killer in the United States. And, you are not alone regarding losing a loved one at way, way, way too early of an age, especially when it's 100% preventable. And that's what I'm all about. I'm a board certified cardiologist, and I teach people how to live the best lifestyle, to eat the best foods. And that's how we're going to save millions of lives.
Wonderful. I love it. Now, you have a very interesting story. I'd love for you to start by sharing your story, your personal story of healing, and how you came from that very traditional medical upbringing to this very controversial way of helping people heal.
Yeah, most certainly. I followed in the footsteps of my father, basically. My father was a cardiologist. He was the head of cardiology in Chicago. He was a brilliant man, an incredible man. And I went right through medical school and 3 years of internal medicine, 3 years of cardiology fellowship. So 10 years after undergrad, I was in training. I finished up at the age of 31. And I was practicing like any cardiologist in the hospitals. I was doing angiograms and pacemakers and all these fancy procedures and seeing tons and tons of the sickest of the sick. And along that way, about 2.5 years into that cardiology practice, I met the woman who would eventually become my wife. And she is a doctor of chiropractic, or as she says, a doctor of cause. And she opened up my eyes to say, people are not getting sick because they lack pharmaceuticals or because they lack a cardiology procedure. They're getting sick for a reason. And you have to be a doctor who finds that reason, who finds that cause. And I listened to what she had to say, and it made perfect sense. And it really made perfect sense because I saw not only what was happening to all the patients that I was seeing, but also what was happening to my own father. And my own father, who developed a strange Parkinson's-like illness in his mid-50s and eventually died at 63, I said, wow, there has to be a better way. And that's when I read and I learned and I went to conferences and met with other holistic healers and changed around my practice, opened up my own practice in 2012 here in Paradise Valley, Arizona, and it's been just an amazing, amazing whirlwind ever since.
Now, you work with your wife, and I'm looking forward to having her on the show as well, because I know in a future episode, we're going to be talking about your wonderful and controversial documentary that you have, movie that you have about vaccines and how parents can support their children without developing vaccine injury and all the kind of facts around that. So definitely want to have you back on. And what was the website for those who'd like to check out your vaccine movie?
Yeah, well, people can go to our website, thedoctorswolfson.com, Wolfson.com, and you'll find it there. It's also at wideawakemovie.com, and it's 2.5 hours long. It is all research, fact-driven, and listen, people say, what does a cardiologist know about vaccines? Well, I did study for 10 years. I have a lot of training when it comes to the immune system and how the body works, and just researching medical literature, and that's where it all comes from. We're first and foremost, my wife and I, we're so passionate about our children, our family, and your family. That's what really matters. And frankly, the segue back into cardiology is that a lot of these childhood illnesses, measles, mumps, rubella, they lower long-term cardiovascular risk, and the chemicals that we are injecting, from aluminum to mercury to some of these other toxic ingredients, actually increase cardiovascular risk. So what I'm all about is teaching people the facts. And once you learn the facts, then you can make an educated decision.
Right, exactly. And episode 89 of my podcast, I had Dr. Stephanie Seneff on, who's a PhD MIT research scientist, and she said that glyphosate is in the MMR vaccine. So there's another dangerous chemical for the cardiovascular system that we really need to be aware about if we're going to choose the route of vaccinating our children or ourselves. On to cardiology. Wonderful that you took your wife's information and really took it to heart. And now that you've opened up this practice, I'm really curious to know, do you have any stories of success that you could share with us of patients that you've worked with reversing heart disease?
Well, listen, I've seen thousands of patients in my career, and certainly thousands while going holistic, and the results that I'm getting are really just tremendous. I'm very passionate about getting people off pharmaceuticals safely, and so often people are just so over-medicated. They come into my office, we talk about lifestyle, we talk about nutrition, we talk about all the things that are important, we put them on evidence-based supplements, and we get them off the pharmaceuticals. And I've seen, case after case, for that, how we normalize cholesterol numbers and markers of inflammation and make their blood tests look all pretty. That's great, but what it does is it decreases their chances of having a heart attack, stroke, and dying. Well, when a person comes in and they have chest pain, to make them feel better naturally. When they have shortness of breath, make them feel better naturally. When they have hypertension, resolve that. When they have congestive heart failure, resolving that. There's just so many things that we're doing from a holistic standpoint. It's really just miraculous. Or even in my wife's practice, how you take a kid with an ear infection and you adjust the kid and the ear infection goes away. We don't need antibiotics, strep throats, all these things, asthma, allergies, sinus congestion, headaches, how those can be healed with chiropractic and natural remedies. It's really just been amazing. And on our website, we have testimonials, and it just goes on and on. And then finally, I've got a patient who is in my practice who was over 500 pounds. And he came to see me because he needed cardiac clearance for gastric bypass surgery. And I said, listen, you're at high risk for having the surgery. There's a big chance you can die during this gastric bypass surgery. But if you're going to go do it. But just understand you're at high risk of dying. And I said, but before you go, let me just mention a couple things about this paleo nutrition. And I scribbled down the paleo diet. I didn't have my book, and I didn't have my online shopping guide or fancy paleo pyramids. I just scribbled it down, and I didn't hear back from the guy actually for about 3 years. And then 3 years later, I got a letter in the mail saying, "Dear Dr. Wolfson, I never had the gastric bypass surgery. I followed your recommendations about paleo nutrition, and I lost over 300 pounds. And those pictures are available on the website. They're also on our sister website, Wolfson Integrative Cardiology, which is my private practice website, in the testimonials area, where this guy lost over 300 pounds in the course of 3 years. But we can do it without drugs. We can do it without surgery.
I'm crying right now. I'm so inspired when I hear that doctors are helping their patients heal their body without drugs. Drugs have their place really as the should be the last measure, which unfortunately we're completely backwards right now. We go to drugs as a nation first. And then when they stop working, or when they didn't work in the first place, or when they, messed us up further, then as like the third or fourth resort, people start to seek out natural medicine. And so your job's a little harder because people come to you like way more messed up than if they just came to you in the first place before getting on all the drugs.
Right. So many times people, that I meet in the public or hear me speak, and they're like, oh, that was a fantastic presentation. I'm really glad I don't need to see you as a cardiologist. It's like, no, you need to see me now. I prefer not to see you after the heart attack, after the stroke. Let's do all the things we can to prevent that now. And, Ashley, a podcast like this and me speaking from the stage, and I've been on CNN and I've been on NBC and interviewed in, the Washington Post and blah, 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 all those different places. It's about getting the message out because the healthcare revolution is on. We are changing things. This is no longer the 1970s where you go to your doctor's office and your doctor says, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. We can do so much better. We demand better. And the internet, people call other people, Dr. Google and stuff like that. Well, you know what? There's some pretty good information that's on the internet that people can, search out and educate themselves. And it's really, really exciting. It's empowering people to go back to the physician and say, I don't want to take this blood pressure drug. I don't want to take this cholesterol drug. I don't want to take this antibiotic. Give me something different or I'm going somewhere else.
Awesome. Now, let's do some myth busting because this is something I've been just chomping at the bit to do. Cholesterol, fat. People have been told for the last 30 years that cholesterol is the cause of heart attacks, that it clogs up the arteries and then you have a heart attack. And so therefore we need to eat low fat and we need to be on statin drugs. Statin drugs bruise the liver to the point where it ceases to create cholesterol because the body actually creates its own cholesterol. And now we're seeing the huge rise in neurological diseases like Parkinson's and MS and in Alzheimer's because we're essentially starving people of fat. But people, the mass media is not really catching on. Like once in a while you'll see an article of bacon's good for you or, oh, look, ha ha ha, butter's good for you. But for the most part, people are still being put on statin drugs. I'd love for you to speak to this and teach our listeners what it is that cholesterol is and is it that we need to eat low fat or do we need to eat high fat or what's going on there?
Well, first and foremost, I would say that, the media exists to entertain. And with that entertainment comes sponsorship dollars. And the sponsorship dollars, of course, come from the pharmaceutical industry. So the media has to tote the message of drugs, pharmaceutical drugs. And anybody who watches TV sees it on a daily basis where we are just inundated with commercials trying to sell us pharmaceuticals for all these new diseases they're inventing. But chapter 1 in my book, we decided to dedicate to cholesterol. And we called it Cholesterol is King and then the truth about cholesterol. So we can start right there to be a myth buster regarding cholesterol. And we talk about the importance of cholesterol, what cholesterol does in the body, how all of our sex hormones, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen come from cholesterol. Energy as cortisol comes from cholesterol. Vitamin D comes from cholesterol. The brain is made up of tons of cholesterol. Every single cell membrane, that fence that houses the millions and billions of cells have cholesterol in there. It just goes on and on about the importance of cholesterol, and that's what we try and stress in my book. And yeah, like you said, there is no evidence whatsoever that eating cholesterol-containing foods is harmful to health. Think about breast milk. A newborn baby gets cholesterol in breast milk for the first 4 years. And cholesterol is very heavy in breast milk. Cholesterol is in eggs because that's how a chicken comes to life, by utilizing the components of the egg yolk, one of which is cholesterol. So big fan of cholesterol, big fan of demystifying the harmful nature of cholesterol, and a big fan of eating cholesterol-rich foods.
So when a patient has LDL on, which is this LDL and HDL on their blood work, and the doctor goes, "Oh, your LDL's high. We need to lower that." Why is LDL bad?
Well, listen, Ashley, it's not bad. That's just pharmaceutical speak. That LDL is bad and HDL is good. I mean, really, why would LDL be bad if animals make it? I mean, so lions and tigers and gorillas and monkeys, they all make LDL, they all make HDL. So how can it be bad? When it comes to LDL and HDL, those are both what are basically transporters in the body, and they transport different things, including cholesterol and fat-soluble vitamins. But the LDL is like a bus, and the bus is made in the liver. The bus leaves the liver to travel around the body to drop off passengers and to pick up passengers, and the same thing with HDL as well. So those are both very, very important molecules that we cannot live without, and that's why we're built with them. When it comes to LDL, there are good and bad amongst the LDL. When it comes to good and bad amongst HDL, that exists as well. And a good holistic provider like I do in my office, we test the good and the bad LDLs. We test for the good and the bad HDLs, and that's what really matters.
So the bad LDL or bad HDL, what is it? Is it, how do we affect it? Do we stop eating fat, or like how do we lower these bad blood markers?
Well, no, it's certainly not by reducing fat intake. To me, it's all about paleo nutrition. It's about learning and following the wisdom of our ancestors and the foods they ate for millions of years. Just like I told that patient who lost over 300 pounds, stuff yourself with vegetables at every opportunity. Eat free-range grass-fed pastured meats. Eat wild seafood. Eat nuts and seeds and eggs and avocados and coconuts. Eat fruit when it's in season. Preferably find local foods. Everything should be organic. These things are basic fundamentals when it comes to health, and people that follow that, they do extraordinarily well, and they'll find what I call their perfect caveman cholesterol, right? Because everybody's different, Ashley. Your perfect number is different from mine, is different from the next door neighbor, is different from the mailman. Everybody's different, and what we need to find is the perfect level for us individually, and we find that perfect level, which gives us perfect body function. We find that perfect level by eating the right foods, getting the sunshine, getting the sleep, getting the chiropractic care, and then if need be, then we can take a little bit of evidence-based supplements. But most times we can just do it naturally.
I love that you pointed out that vegetables at each meal. I think a lot of people think about paleo and they think it's Atkins. They think it's a giant plate of bacon with a bunch of more bacon. And even when you go to Pinterest and you look at paleo recipes, a lot of it is just very heavy on the meat and not heavy on the vegetables. And so you pointed out that vegetables at each meal, and that was sort of the center point in which you built the rest of the diet around. So you said, that was the first thing you started with. And when you say vegetables at each meal, are you talking about like half the plate, a quarter of the plate, 75% of the plate? How much vegetables should we be eating?
Well, I'm not sure that, I guess what I don't like is I don't like, when people ask me, how many ounces or how many grams. I'm not big on that. Paleo man would, if they came across a whole salmon, they'd like eat as much salmon as they possibly could, and when they didn't have the salmon, they'd be eating a lot of vegetables as they were, gathering. But I guess to answer your question, I think if you did 2/3 of the plate vegetables, 1/3 with an animal product, and some meals we eat are vegan meals, and sometimes I eat meat once a day. Sometimes I eat meat 3 times a day, meat and or seafood. But a little shameless plug here. I start off every morning with what I call the triple greens combo, and it is products that we sell on our website, thedoctorswolfson.com. And what we use is we use a daily green product called Superfood, which is organic chlorella spirulina, and our organic beetroot powder. So everything's organic, everything's food. And it's my homemade homemade greens drink that comes in powder form, and we get just amazing results. I could talk about the individual ingredients in there all day and what it does and the evidence-based literature of what it does. But I think no matter what diet you follow, if you start the day off with a healthy greens drink, and it's nice to get fresh juice, and as long as it's organic, I'm all in favor of that. But if you start off the day that way, I think you're making a big, big difference, no matter what the rest of your day is like.
Wonderful. And so for listeners who have high blood pressure, or they have loved ones, maybe they have husbands with high blood pressure, what can they do right now to begin to reverse it, to get to the root cause?
Well, once again, it's the fundamentals. Eat the right food, go to sleep with the sun down and awake with the sunrise. And our ancestors, when they weren't sleeping, they were out in the sun and they were naked. So embrace the power of the sun. The sun lowers blood pressure. The sun lowers cholesterol because it takes excess cholesterol and converts it over into vitamin D. Why is there such heart disease? Why is there such heart disease at higher latitudes? It's because they're not getting sunshine to make that conversion from cholesterol into vitamin D. So we really want to stress that. And then, once again, there's just tons of evidence-based supplements that work. Beetroot powder, my beetroot powder is totally proven to lower blood pressure. It increases something called nitric oxide, the body's main vasodilator, relaxes the vascular smooth muscle cells. So we use a lot of beetroot powder. We use another product called Vessel Support in combination with the beetroot. That does wonders. The superfood Chlorella spirulina lowers cholesterol by 47 points. Once again, it's not about lowering the number down. It's about eating the right foods to find your perfect number.
So if someone has never been on the paleo diet and they want to make sure they're preventing heart disease, they should definitely check out your book, The Paleo Cardiologist. What are some steps that we can take to, for someone who's never done paleo, and what are some, how do we get into this diet? Because people are sort of addicted to their sugar and addicted to their fast food, addicted to their grains, and you're asking them to give up a lot of things that their body is addicted to. Is there a way to detox or a way to ease into this, or we're just going to go and jump in?
Well, I think, I have a lot of patients who've done a lot of different things. I think some people, like you said, they just jump in. They read the diet, they understand the information, and then boom, they start it and they never turn back. I've got a lot of people like that. But I do have a lot of people that do have to ease into it for a variety of reasons. And what I tell people, Ashley, is 3 things right from the get-go. And just start with these 3, which you can do. Number 1, always be organic. So organic means no pesticides, no chemicals in the food. Everything is done on the up and up. They're using organic fertilizers in the soil and the quality water and all those things. So always be organic. You may catch me at the local natural grocery store eating dark chocolate. You may catch me eating Strauss's free-range grass-fed ice cream, for example, but I'm always organic. You will not find me in the gas station having a Butterfingers or a Snickers bar. And believe me, Ashley, for the first 35 years of my life, I did all that. I ate all the fast food. I ate all the junk. But if you want the junk or whatever you do, just do it organically. So that's rule number 1. Number 2, gluten-free. Gluten is a nasty protein found in wheat, barley, and rye. We test people for leaky gut. We test people for gluten sensitivity, and over 50% of people are lighting up on these tests being sensitive to gluten. So I have no gluten in my diet ever. And the third thing is that we're soy-free. Soy is a hormone disruptor. It disrupts the thyroid. It disrupts our sex hormones. It does so many nasty things to the gut. Even if it's organic, it's something that we recommend avoiding. So organic, always gluten-free, soy-free. That's our 3 things. Now, we know about, listen, sugar is bad, and all the other starchy carbs are bad as well. Our ancestors, frankly, never had dairy, right? They had their mother's milk, and then they were done. We didn't chase after other animals to milk them or make cheese, butter, yogurt, and ice cream out of it. So keep that in mind as well. If you do dairy, we recommend it raw.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking to myself, You love helping your patients get off their medication. Obviously, with certain meds, it would be over time. Are there any medications that you immediately just grab it out of the patient's hand and like just throw it away, or just say, no, you can't have this anymore? Is there any drug that you are 100% believe that no one should ever take?
Well, I mean, there are definitely some. I mean, so, certainly drugs for osteoporosis, I pull those off immediately. Very often, it's very easy to pull people off of PPIs, which are those heavy duty acid suppressors. Things like, Prilosec and Nexium, the purple pill. I'm very quick to get people off of those. Very quick to get people off of statin drugs. There's certain blood thinners that I'm quick to get people off of, for primary prevention. I'm quick to get people off of aspirin. I pull those drugs away, and I educate people on that. So, tell them, listen, this is the risk, this is the benefit. You make a decision, and most times people certainly are more than willing to get rid of the drug.
So if someone's on Coumadin or warfarin or a drug that's a blood thinner, maybe they had a stroke or they had a blood clot somewhere in their body at one point, and their doctor said, you have to be on this for life. What can they, obviously they need to work with a doctor, they need to work with you, but what do you do with them naturally so that they no longer, need that blood thinner? How do you correct the body so that it doesn't inappropriately clot?
Well, I think, this is a great time to mention medical legal and say, I'm not, of course, giving medical advice, and neither are you. This is just for educational purposes. Find a good holistic doctor. If you want to come down here to Arizona and see me, love to see you. No problem there. But it's about educating people on the risks and the benefits. So sometimes people are on Coumadin, and frankly, Ashley, they need to be on Coumadin or some other heavy-duty blood thinner. Maybe they've got an artificial heart valve. Maybe they have a lot of risk factors for a stroke, and they've had a previous stroke. So in those scenarios, it can be, a little bit tricky. And I'm not 100% dogmatic against the use of pharmaceuticals. As we mentioned earlier on in our discussion, there is a time and a place, but we try and exhaust all the other options first. But so often I see people, for example, with atrial fibrillation, the irregular heart rhythm, where people are at increased risk for having a stroke. But not all people are equal. Some people have higher risk than others. And if your risk with a condition like atrial fibrillation, if your risk is low for having a stroke, then you don't need the heavy blood thinner. We can do things naturally, by optimizing your diet, your sunshine, your sleep, by taking omega-3 fish oil, for example, or garlic, or vitamin C, vitamin E. Those are natural blood thinners. And then finally, there's a natural blood thinner that I use. It's our product called Flow, Flow, that contains nattokinase and serrapeptase. And the Japanese have been studying that for 50 years, and there's good literature on it.
I'm glad you brought up atrial fibrillation. My husband was a candidate for a pacemaker before we learned from Dr. Joel Wallach, who's a naturopathic physician. He actually told us, well, my husband was in an AFib attack and it was lasting for days. He said that it's not the heart. There's nothing wrong with your heart. It's that the nerve coming out of the thoracic spine that innervates the heart is being impinged. You got to go see a chiropractor. You got to go hang upside down. You got to go put ice on your back. And sure enough, we did that and the AFib stopped. And so we had this experience of, oh my gosh, chiropractic. Who knew that the heart could be affected by something going on in the spine? Have you ever seen that?
Oh, I've seen that so many times, Ashley, and everybody in my practice has to be under the care of a chiropractor, plain and simple. My wife is a doctor of chiropractic. I've seen the miracle of chiropractic with her hands and in the patient's results that we're getting. It's part of the program. Once again, the nutrition, the lifestyle, the sleep, the sunshine, etc., physical activity, but, getting, chiropractic care, because as you said, the brain and neurologic system innervates every single organ in the body, from the blood vessels to the kidneys and the heart and the lungs and on and on. And if there is dysfunction along that way, it has to be corrected, because if there's dysfunction, you're going to get atrial fibrillation. You're going to get congestive heart failure. You're going to get hypertension. And chiropractic really shines in that area. And it's so important. So atrial fibrillation, listen, there's data that acupuncture helps reduce AFib. There's data that says that that meditation and yoga help atrial fibrillation. It's in the literature, but the typical cardiologist is not reading that, and it's really beneficial because all those things help to manage and balance what's called autonomic tone, the autonomic nervous system, the parasympathetics and sympathetics. And when we get that balance through lifestyle, through chiropractic, through these other mechanisms, these symptomatic conditions go away. We don't need the pharmaceutical. Your husband was not deficient in some pharmaceutical. He was not deficient in an ablation procedure where they burn part of his heart. What he was deficient in is chiropractic care to reverse a subluxation in his thoracic spine to get rid of the atrial fibrillation.
Mm-hmm. What was amazing is every time he had an AFib attack, it was right after he had done something where he lifted something heavy, like we moved our house and he lifted all the furniture, and then 2 days later, we take him to the hospital because he had such bad AFib. They had to put him under and shock his heart back because he wasn't responding to beta blockers. And that was before I learned all this about natural medicine. If I had known, I would have immediately just taken him to the chiropractor. It's just amazing that we could have avoided that, $10,000 hospital bill and taken him to see the chiropractor for a few times and had him hang upside down on inversion table that's like less than $300 on Amazon. So it's like, in so many ways, holistic medicine, of course, we want to apply it like preventively. So people want to come see you and learn from you before they get the heart attack, like you said. But it is cheaper in the long run to do preventive medicine and to do holistic medicine, than it is to wait till you get sick and rush to the hospital. But unfortunately, people don't know. And that's why we're here on the Learn to Health podcast, helping people learn this information. So if anything touched you or inspired you, share this with your loved ones, especially those who have cardiovascular issues, because they can learn from Dr. Jack Wolfson, and we can reverse this naturally, which is the biggest message. Share with us a bit about your website. You have so much going on. You have so much great information. You have a blog, and you've got your store where you have your wonderful supplements you talked about, and you've got your documentary on vaccines. You also have your book, the Paleo Cardiologist. What does it look like to work with you? Can people around the world work with you, like over Skype, or do they have to come see you? What does it look like if someone wants to be a client or a patient of yours?
Well, anyone who's in the United States, they have to come see me first in person in Arizona. And obviously this time of year, it's beautiful. We set people up in, we tell them which hotel and which restaurants. We're 20 minutes from the airport. So fortunately, it's very, very simple at this time. And I do have a large practice from around the country and around the world because people want answers. They are sick and tired of pharmaceuticals. They're sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. And that's what we offer in this practice. Now, for people that can't come to see me, I say, listen, start off with the book, follow us on the website and our blogs, and you'll get a lot of information there. And we got a lot more coming. Listen to podcasts like this and learn and change and do. For people, around the world, we do Skype consultations, no problem with that whatsoever. And that's how we're making a difference. So my practice, I just saw somebody from South Korea. She flew in from South Korea. This is kind of an interesting story, Ashley, in that, I'm asking her, because I ask everybody all these different questions. I say, what time do you go to sleep? Because it's appropriate to go to sleep with the sun down and awake with the sunrise. That's healthy. And this 83-year-old lady from South Korea said, well, I normally go to sleep between 2 and 2:30. And I was just blown away. I'm like, what are you doing until 2:30 every night? And she said, well, I'm on my cell phone and I'm watching TV and I got the iPad. I said, you're killing yourself. You're killing yourself. You can't do that. And people are just so conditioned that that's normal. And I tell them, no, that's not normal. Because when you're in the artificial light just goes right to the back of the eye. It destroys melatonin. It destroys your brain. It leads to hypertension. It leads to sleep disorders. It leads to inflammation when you don't make melatonin. It's a problem. And, what I'm all about is telling people the truth. What you do with the truth and you do with the information is up to you. But at least you heard it here first.
I love it. Thank you so much. That is fantastic. So we got to go to bed when the sun sets. Now, what do you think about taking our melatonin as a supplement? Do you think that people should supplement with melatonin, or do you think that they should just really do everything they can to make it naturally themselves?
Well, I think certainly you have to do everything you can to make it naturally, and but listen, the evidence is there. Melatonin as a supplement does work. It's very effective, and not even necessarily for people to sleep, although it helps there. But a lot of times, melatonin does help with inflammation and or gut issues. So when people have elevated markers of inflammation on blood testing, it's one of the supplements that I may reach for, especially if we can't get things really dialed in. With the diet. And frankly, some people just aren't going to follow the diet. Most people aren't going to follow the diet 100%. They're not going to follow the lifestyle. So that's why we need to reach for supplements. And even amongst people that are the healthiest, the food is suboptimal. Even the best organic food lacks certain nutrients because of deficient soil and water and air pollution. So, and then a lot of times we have a lot of catching up to do, right? So somebody listening to this may be 60 years old, and for the first, 57 years of their life, they weren't very healthy, and they have a lot of catching up to do. And that's where supplements can play a role.
Now, one final question is about exercise. We hear we should exercise for a healthy heart, but we also hear about joggers, who are seemingly healthy, just like dropping dead of a heart attack when they didn't have any other symptoms while they were jogging. So, for those who are, like you said, maybe they're in their 60s or they haven't been physically active and they want to get physically active, do you have any recommendations for how to do that while building the healthiest heart we can?
Well, certainly the key is, I think, to start slowly, to slowly build up in activities. Arizona, we got a major problem because people come out here and they're like, oh, I'm going to go hike up one of your local mountains when they haven't exercised in 30 years. They're like, oh, I played high school football. Well, you know what? That was 40 years ago. So take it easy. People do die when they get that sudden activity. So we ask people to increase it gradually. But I'm a big fan of exercising outside, getting the sunshine, being in the natural light, hiking and biking and walking. I think all that stuff is important. I think that since the 1970s, we've kind of been on this what would be called cardio activity or long duration exercise. Hop on the treadmill for 45 minutes while you're watching television indoors. No, I don't think that's the answer. I think that more of the paleo activity is what the science is telling us. So what's paleo activity? Paleo man and woman would have picked up a boulder and threw it over there and carried their young, or carried food, or carried water, or built shelter. They were just very active in their lives. And I think that's what we have to really, stress. So we tell people kind of do burst aerobic activity. So kind of like, run up the mountain and then slowly come down the mountain. We tell people to do push-ups and to do squats and lunges just with body weight. Maybe get some dumbbells and do some curls and shoulder raises. But for the most part, we don't need to, we don't need the fancy gym membership to be healthy.
I love it. Dr. Wolfson, thank you so much for coming on the show. All the links to what Dr. Jack Wolfson does is going to be on the show notes of the podcast, but you can definitely visit his website, thedoctorswilson.com. And I'm really looking forward to having you back on the show with your wife to discuss your movie about vaccines and vaccine safety. I'd love to know, though, we can leave the listeners with a bit of a little teaser. If you could just let them know a little bit about your movie, or give them a little bit of a teaser about it.
Well, the movie is called A Wide Awake Movie, and that's where you can go get it. And it's 2.5 hours long, and it's just packed full of information. And what we're all about is information, telling people the truth, because oftentimes you do not hear the truth from the pediatrician. You don't hear the truth from the television. Everybody has their agenda. Our agenda is to educate the public. Our agenda is to boost up the immunity of the body naturally instead of tearing it down artificially. So what we talk about is viruses. We talk about the reasons why vaccines exist. We talk about the benign childhood illnesses that they are supposedly designed to prevent. We talk about the toxicity and the side effects. And then finally, we talk about ways to boost the immune system naturally. And these are evidence-based ways from the literature about how to build up a strong immune system. You do not build a strong body by injecting it with chemicals.
I love it. That is exactly the point. So it's thedoctorswolfson.com.
Well, the website, and doctors is abbreviated DRS, thedoctorswolfson.com. And then I'm going to put in a special code. So if they want to use the code Ashley James, we'll make that 2 words, Ashley James. We will give 10% off of any supplement order that people do. And if people have questions, shoot us an email to health@thedoctorswolfson.com, and we'll get right back to them.
Oh, very cool. Excellent. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It has been very inspiring to know that we can reverse heart disease naturally and prevent it. And we don't need drugs. In most cases, we can do it naturally. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ashley.
How would you like to learn from top naturopathic physicians? Go to freedoctorcourse.com and sign up for the free course that'll email you videos with tips and tricks to achieving optimal health. That's freedoctorcourse.com. freedoctorcourse.com. Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com, and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.